What's a wholesome secret you have? When I was little I used to secretly put my money in my parents' wallets so they could have it without knowing. Due to a complicated inside joke among my friends, I run a meme account on Instagram called Great Blue Heron. It's literally just an account my friends follow where I post low effort memes about herons, complete with a heron profile picture. For some reason though, every few days random wildlife photographers will tag the account in pictures they take of great blue herons. I've never told anyone this, but after a while I started liking and commenting on all the posts, usually complimenting them on their photography skills. It's nice to think that my obscure posting account can brighten someone's day with a little chaotic energy. My boyfriend tends to grind his teeth at night during his deepest sleep cycles or when he's having a stressful dream. To help lull him out of the dream and get him to relax so he doesn't wake up with a sore jaw, I start rubbing his arm, gently call out his name, and in an overly loving whisper say things like, "I love you. You're the best. I'm right here. You're my guy." And then I ask him very politely to please stop grinding his teeth. He always responds with happy murmurs even though he's dead asleep, and then calms down enough where he stops grinding and drifts back off without ever actually waking up. He generally has no idea I do this, and I just smile to myself when he wakes the following day remarking how great he slept. In high school, I started a compliments page for my school on Facebook. People would write in compliments about each other and I'd post them anonymously. I was deeply depressed and wanted to make a positive impact in my community when I felt really powerless. I never told anyone who was behind it, but knowing the kindness people showed their friends and classmates was really special and solidified my faith in humanity when I was at a real low point in my life. I put together a surprise Christmas for my sister, her husband, and their 5 kids about a decade ago after finding out they didn't have any money for presents due to emergency expenses. Dropped off family presents for the 12 days prior to the holiday, coats one night, a big dinner one night, hot chocolate kits, etc. And once my, then, husband's ridiculously rich family found out what I was doing, they joined the cause. By Christmas Eve we had about $4K in presents ranging from clothes, to toys, to Home Depot gift cards to drop off. Hired a Santa lookalike to ring the doorbell at 10 PM and drop the toys off for us. He also ended up giving them $500 of his own money. She still has no idea who was behind it to this day, and I hope she never finds out. She and her now grown kids still talk about the magic Christmas Santa visited us. In our house we have a safe. In the safe there is an envelope of our online accounts and PW in case one of us dies. One of the notes is instructions to an email account my wife doesn't know. If she accesses the account, she'll find hundreds of love letters or love emails to her. When I was very young, I was told all dogs have very good hearing, so whenever I saw one in public, I would whisper how good they are. Edit. Thank you for the gold. I tell each of my pets I love them and good night before we go to sleep. I live in a village that is like 80% old people, meaning they can't walk up to the church and see their loved ones' graves very often. Once a month I go into the graveyard and clean all the graves and make sure they have fresh flowers on them and they look nice. I got caught once by an elderly lady who has since died. I take extra time on hers because she was just so sweet. A few years ago I was out with a friend at a restaurant celebrating and he feels super awkward about having stuff paid for him. So he asked us all not to pay for his dinner. I gave the waiter my card and told her to tell him that his dinner was on the house because it was his birthday. He believed it and keeps raving about how that restaurant has great service now. He still doesn't know it was me, but it makes me smile every time he talks about how much he likes the restaurant. My mom divorced my abusive father when I was 10. She was going through a hard time, sleepwalking and doing weird stuff. I would wake up and bring her back to bed. One night, I got up out of bed to check on her. She was sleeping peacefully, so I just stood there and watched her. Then I kissed her on the cheek and went back to bed. Years later, I overheard her telling a friend about that rough time in her life, and how one night, she felt like she was kissed by an angel and finally found peace. I guess I was her angeless. I want to be a dad. I want that more than any career goal I've ever made. Even though that hasn't happened yet, I've had the opportunity to adopt college kids in my town. teaching them to dance, helping them figure out dating, making them tea, teaching them games, and talking through all sorts of life with them. I get to laugh with them and I get to cry with them, and I make them better off when they return to their families. One of them carved me a walking stick with a beautiful small bird whittled into the handle. I almost started crying as he said the words, "Happy Father's Day." I'm the person secretly sending the flowers the elderly ladies at the nursing home once a month. They deserve it and are the sweetest things. Every now and then when I find cool looking trees I'll give them a pat. My stepdad died in January. The 23rd of June would have been their 20th wedding anniversary. She has been so down since his passing. Also knowing the things he did to prep before he became bedbound. Taking her car and having it serviced and brand new tires. Filling the cabinet with the hard to find sort of expensive dog treats, etc. I had a big floral arrangement sent to her on their anniversary day, signing the card "I'm always with you," and threatened the floral shop with life and limb to not tell who came in and paid for it. She was so happy. She thinks he thought of it and really it was me. I'll never tell. Literally every single thing I do in my life is to make my nana proud. It's honestly the one thing I genuinely care about. She's the reason I went to college. The reason I worked hard to get a good job. The reason I lost the weight and took back control of my health. All for her. My life is wonderful because of her. I won't share this with anyone, but once I was at a diner that had one of those grapple arcade machines. I saw two little girls trying to get an Elsa stuffed figure, and they ended up losing their money trying to get it. So I called them over and said I would win it for them. Once I said it I was scared cause I realized I promised something that I couldn't do, but I got super lucky and got it first try. I gave it to the girls. It made their day, and their smiles made mine. Moral of the story? Little things like that can make a big difference. So go make someone's day. : I sneak kisses on my husband while he's asleep. He's so cute when he's asleep. Then he wakes up and I want to choke him. My dad always retells stories and a few sentences in he'll ask, "Have I told you this before?" I always say no because I love hearing him tell stories. And he loves telling them, even when I've heard it so much that I have it memorized. Maybe it was very dumb and slightly creepy of me, but back in 7th grade I would follow a lot of PPL from school on Instagram, and often I would see that some classmates and friends were depressed or just going through a rough time, so I would write them a letter with some encouraging words and put in like $10 from the money I had saved up through the years and tell them to buy something nice with it. I would watch them during school to see what their locker was and sneak out during class to go to the restroom and put the letter in their locker. I like paying the checks anonymously for couples dining out. I adore I knew she was the one when. Stories. I like to envision my future husband telling a story like that someday. That hopefully doesn't begin with seeing me drunk and getting tased by 5 cops. I have more videos of my friends laughing and just being generally happy saved than I have of anything else. I randomly ask politicians how their day is on Twitter. I never get replies. Every year my school did thing where you could buy someone a chocolate rose on Valentine's Day and choose to remain anonymous. They were like $10 and really crummy, but every year I'd save what I could and buy the people I thought were least likely to get one a rose so they had a good day. I was walking home from my bus stop when I saw this old lady being super careful crossing a shortcut that goes through some houses. It was winter and there was snow and ice on the ground. She looked like she was struggling, and it also looked dangerous because she seemed fragile in a way. I immediately offered my help and she accepted. I held her hand and walked slowly through the shortcut. Then I asked where does she plan to go. She told me she was going to the bus stop, so I helped her reach all the way there. I don't know why, but I asked where she was going and she told me to the nearest Walmart. So I also offered my help. She then accepted my offer, which I was not expecting, and I ended up doing groceries with her and walking her home. She was a very sweet lady and calm. That little trip made me feel really good for a whole month, and I still remember now and then about it, and it makes me smile a bit. At the time, I remember thinking about asking why is she doing groceries at her age. I was really curious, but I held back. I always wonder. I keep a list of things that I observe people I love enjoying or wanting, so I know what to get them for Christmas birthday presents. I watch my stepmother's streams and talk to her. She doesn't know it's me and she always gets excited when viewers talk to her. I'm in the process of designing my girlfriend's engagement ring so that I can propose to her this fall. She has no idea I've been talking to a silversmith, and I can't wait to ask her to be my wife. Date. I was finally able to pick up the ring today. I'm so in love with it. I don't think he could have done a better job with it. It suits her so well. Now I just need to wait a few months to propose, which is going to be so hard. I'm an adult man, but I privately give my dog kisses on the head so he knows I love and care about his well-being. I had this 87-year-old neighbor whose husband died and my mom asked me to go bring her a thing of flowers and told me to send our condolences. I went over and did what my mom said, and when she saw the flowers she mentioned that her husband used to get her a bouquet of flowers every day for 64 years and that she was going to miss that. So for a little over 3 years I would go out, get a bouquet of flowers, and put it in her mailbox without her knowing so that when her grandson came and got her mail she would have the bouquet of flowers. She never found out who was doing it. She was a really nice lady and would sit on her front porch in the summer and watch the children play on the road. Invited my sisters and me to sit with her and talk. I became really good friends with her. A couple of weeks after her 90th birthday she had a stroke and passed away. I still leave flowers on her grave every other week. It's been 2 years and I still miss her to this day. Rest in peace MRS. Johnson. I'm glad I could continue bringing you flowers like your husband did. I hope you two are together somewhere with a garden full of those daisies you loved so much. I send my aunt $50 in the mail every month. She doesn't know who it's from, and it's all I can afford. But she's a single mum of 2 teenage boys who eat her out of house and home and don't contribute it. I've berated them many times, but they see a free home and play video games 24/7 and don't care that their mum works 14 hours days at her own business just because she can't afford to pay for staff. No one knows it's me, and she'll never find out. But I know it helps her buy groceries, so I'll keep on doing for as long as I can. I act interested and excited every time someone tells me something that they are passionate about despite them repeating it to me for the nth time. I'm just happy they wanted to share it with me. I compliment people no matter what they look like because I'm trying to be the person I need when my depression hits hard. One day I rang my father, who was due to pick me up from school, to ask if he would mind dropping off a classmate of mine called Rose as well. Sure, he answered. The day went by and suddenly I realized I would need to stay longer at school than expected. I phoned my father again. Would it be okay if he only picked up Rose? Sure, he answered. Also, how will I recognize her? She's wearing a turquoise hat. You can't miss her. True. Rose's hat was highly visible. And true. A distinguishing detail was crucial because 200 other students would be leaving the school at the same time as her. All went fine. My father picked up Rose and drove her home. Fast forward 3 years. My parents and I are eating dinner at their place. The conversation is about things that make you proud of family, friends and colleagues. Oh, you remember the day you asked me to pick up a friend of yours from your school? My father suddenly asks. I nod. And do you remember telling me that I'd spot her in the crowd thanks to her turquoise hat? I nod again. Well, I learned something important about you that day. I'm now fearing the worst. But my father smiles. And I in the world, myself included, would have picked a different detail to distinguish Rose from the crowd. I still can't see where my father is going with this. She was black. Edit : that's the highest number of upvotes I have ever got. Thank you netizens. I have a framed photo of my childhood cat on my nightstand. I spend way too much time on Amazon looking at toys for my dog. My long-term partner thinks he is the champion of making coffee. Absolutely, the best. His coffee delivers a nirvana experience every morning. He's a coffee artist. When we started dating almost 10 years ago, he wooed me with his amazing coffee, freshly made each morning, with cinnamon sprinkles on top. His coffee works. It's bad. So bad. I sip on it for a few minutes, let it get cold, and dump it down the sink. My partner used to smoke a lot, about 3 years free of it now, and he's always had a massive sweet tooth. He puts so much sugar in the coffee that the bottom of it is a clear, melted Grainy crust. He adds so much spices on top that it literally feels like drinking sand. Sometimes the layer of spice is so thick, you can barely see the liquid surface underneath it. And it's so overwhelmingly sweet, you can't taste the coffee at all. But it's so heartwarming when he delivers it to my desk. Specially made just for me. This is the first time I've admitted this to anyone. I hate his coffee. I will take this secret to my grave. Every time I go out I pull $10 out and buy a $5 fruit cup from the fruit stand vendors and give them the other $5 as a tip. I don't make a lot of money so it may not be much, but it's been a routine thing for a while now and I never really mention it to anyone except this thread. I wish I was rich so I could give them a lot more. They make their living in the hot sun and now with the pandemic are still out there risking their health in the heat to make a decent living. They deserve a lot more. I like reading people's first kiss stories. I know somebody who gave 10 anonymous $10,000 grants to small business owners in our town during the shutdown. He asked somebody else to decide on the recipients based on their contributions to our community and culture. He didn't even pick them. He just wanted to do what he could to ensure that we were still us on the other side. To my knowledge, only 3 people know his name. My wife made the selections and distributed the funds. My parents don't really know how to use tech much. I've been slowly teaching them step by step on stuff like Facebook, using a phone, using a tablet, etc. They like going to Starbucks a lot, so I set them up with an account and taught them how to use it. However, I set my credit card to be used whenever they go and buy coffee. About 6 years ago, my girlfriend at the time mentioned a family friend of hers who was struggling financially and was barely able to feed her kids. So without telling anyone, I went to the grocery store, bought about 20 cans of Chef Boyardee, and dropped them off at the woman's front door when nobody was home, apart from my ex. And that's only because I told her, and she agreed to keep my involvement a secret. Nobody has ever figured out who left the cans there. I love watching romantic movies. It makes me feel so warmed up, and I'm a guy. I carry around things to help me take care of sick bees and make them better. A bit of white sugar and a bit of water often gives the bee the shot of adrenaline to the heart a bee needs. The sugar rush. But remember, this is only in emergencies. Bees produce poor quality honey for their larvae if all they eat is sugar and water. And don't use brown sugar or honey as they introduce pathogens that the hive may not have built up an immunity for. I love when people play with my hair. Now mind you, I am antisocial, loudmouthed, bawdy, vulgar, cocky, a shat of a 16-year-old boy, and goddamn am I glad that the girl I had a crush on first semester decided to sit behind me in English and just play with my hair. I mean, duck, I felt like I was going to melt. Grandmother came to the States when she married a man while he stationed in Okinawa. Very few trips back because they were poor. Divorced years later, having kids. She hasn't been back to visit her family in 25 years. Was able to go on a study abroad to Japan and was able to meet her family I've never met before with a huge language barrier. Made her sister an updated photo album of her nieces and nephews she's never met before. Only ones that know about this are my grandmother, parents and siblings. Sometimes I smell my spouse's pillow because it smells like them. Whenever I go out to eat, I'll buy an extra dish to go just in case I bump into someone hungry. There's always a hungry person out there. I usually work closing shifts and have often been in a low-level management position at various city jobs like fast food etc. Usually no more than 5 or so co-workers on those shifts. Well, at the Burger King I worked at, the manager got Christmas cards for the day shift and did a whole secret Santa thing for them. Didn't let the closers participate. I went out secretly and got every closer a $20 gift that I knew they'd like, as I worked with these people every day. And got myself one as a cover so they wouldn't suspect me. Labeled all the gifts as being from Santa Claus. I've done the same thing at every job I've worked since because, invariably, the night crew gets shafted while the day crew got bonuses or cards or parties etc. I used variants on the name like Closer Father Christmas or Cafe Kris Kringle. No one ever figured out it was me, but seeing co-workers come in with that "why the duck am I here" look and then have their face light up at a small thing is always really nice to see. I mean, it visibly makes their day or their week, and so I keep doing it. About 14 years ago, I met a homeless man who had just moved under a bridge at my favorite swimming hole. When we hung out and chatted with him, we noticed he was fishing with string and a bent wire for a hook. We asked him if he wanted one of our old fishing rods and some tackle stuff. He said no, he was fine with what he had. We never saw him with food or anything, so we started offering food and rides. He wouldn't take any help. My husband at the time, or my sister offered. All he had was a bike and some blankets. He started work at a Hardee's and would bike there. We live in the country, so it was pretty far. We were dirt poor too, but we had to do something. So one day, when he first started his job, we brought lots of spoons, pole top canned food, and I baked a cake and left it all at his spot. I figured maybe he would take it if he thought no one would know. We brought a tarp and hung it up so he would have more shelter and privacy. The next day we went back and he had shifted the tarp over more to make his corner smaller, and my cake plate and an empty can of ravioli was sitting in his little trash pile at his home. I was so happy he took what we could give, and we always visited him to fish and never told him we left it for him. One day he wasn't there anymore. All his stuff was gone, and I like to think he finally saved enough to get a place. I was going through a tough time and had to get some blood work done. One thing led to another and I just couldn't stop crying and felt so depressed and lost. I went back to my car and sat in the parking garage contemplating any reason to live. An older woman tapped on my window. It looked like she was going through chemo. She asked to hold my hand and pray for me. Even though I'm not religious, it meant something to me. She was so kind and wonderful, and I truly think she saved my life. Now when I see people crying, I try to do the same. Okay, first a little backstory. I just turned 20 and I've been crazy passionate about architecture for a long time. Earlier this year, I had enough courage to go to my college's career fair, and I managed to get an amazing job at a pretty successful firm near where I live. A few weeks ago, they let me design an actual house, and as a 20-year-old, I never thought I'd get to design a real building this young. I'm crazy excited about this, but I haven't told any of my close friends yet because there's still logistical stuff to work out related to the house before it's approved to get built. I'm a lunch lady and I put my own money in some kids' accounts who need it. If I see an elderly person dining out alone, I will oftentimes pay their bill. I don't have a job right now, but I hope to have one again soon so I can continue. I always flush the toilet when someone doesn't, or wipe the piss drops on the seat. Yes, my brother is a ducking slot. That way no one as you accidentally sit on it when they are not paying attention. I do a lot of smaller things like that no one really notices. I once gave a homeless man $10 bucks, a Sprite and some chips. Man literally started to break down and cry. I hope he's doing good today. I am currently giving it everything I have to pursue my career. My parents and girlfriend support me. I secretly hope to one day be able to provide for my parents and give them everything they want because they've risked and sacrificed a lot to allow me to be where I am now. When my friends were going to do a prank and I figured it out, I would still fall for it to see them happy. I love food and I love to cook food. I'm not at a chef level, but I can make it work. My husband has a fear that he recently confessed to me. He said he's afraid I won't like his banjos with coffee or his late night special grilled cheese because my taste will get too extreme for me to not like simple things. This man doesn't know I'd give up literally anything in the world to have his banj and his amazing double crust grilled cheese. He doesn't know that his simple sandwiches are my actual comfort food. It brings me more joy than any expensive restaurant's food. I remember the faces of all the people I've met. Sometimes, before bed, faces of those I knew all the way back to preschool or elementary school come to mind, and I pray that they're well, even though they most likely forgot I ever existed.